Welcome back to the Deliberate Exchange. So, obviously, I start every single one of these episodes with a big deep breath because breath work means a lot to me. It has been something that I have been consistently doing for the better part of 5.5 years. And like not just everyday breathing, but actual deliberate breathing and deep feeling journeys. And I thought that this episode would be a good time to showcase why I love it so much, especially in the realm of healing and growth. So we'll start with the concept of thinking about like the things that you've dealt with, the things, or at least the things that you think you've dealt with. Maybe you've talked them through in therapy. Maybe you've journaled about them. Maybe you have intellectually forgiven the people involved. You maybe have reframed it in 100 different ways. But even still, even with all that, years later, there's something small that happens and then bam, you're triggered. Your chest tightens, your heart races, your stomach drops, and maybe you act out passive aggressively, maybe you react aggressively, whatever that might be. But it's because some of these things don't just live in our minds, they live in our bodies. And I'll give you an example of this. So there had been a story, a shame story that I had been carrying for the better part of 25 years. For 25 years, it was quietly running in the background of my life. I told myself it was over. I had closed it, again, intellectually, but my body was still keeping that score and it was still looping. And it would show up in like really different ways that you don't even give a lot of credit to or awareness to, but it's as if there's an app on your phone that's open that's draining your phone of batteries. Like that's what it's like when you have something like this that is still open. And it wasn't actually until a conscious connected breathwork session, or a deep feeling journey as I call them, that I finally closed that loop. And this was when I was working with my mentors. When it happened, my body literally purged it. Like I'm talking coughing super aggressively, literally getting it out of my system. And so we'll talk about that today. We'll talk about open stress and trauma loops, what they are, how they keep us stuck, and why breath work can be the exact thing that finally lets them close. And it's also simulated in nature. Nature has this beautiful inherent tool to close stress loops, and they deploy them at the ready. And us humans are still learning. So an open loop is basically an unfinished survival response. So something has happened maybe years ago, maybe it was in childhood, that your body wasn't fully able to process. Maybe you had to hold it to stay safe. Maybe you had nobody to help you to move through it. Maybe your body just went into freeze. Maybe you had no idea how to kind of deal with those dense, heavy emotions. And the thing about these moments is that they don't just disappear with time. They stay running like an app on your phone that you thought you closed, but it is still draining the battery. Even if you understand the event now, even if you've made peace with it mentally, the nervous system can still be holding on to the energy of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And that's why the same feelings come back. That's why the loop stays open until the body, not the mind, gets to finish it. And after all, like our bodies are the most intuitive parts of our body, not our mind. And so this is where conscious connected breathing and deep feeling journeys becomes extremely powerful. When I develop a script to use with my clients, it's intentionally designed to help the body complete those old survival responses. And this is why it works. So number one, it guides you to feel what wasn't safe to feel. Loops stay open when we weren't allowed to feel the full range of emotions or sensations at the time. Breath work creates a very safe container to finally access these sensations and let them move through the body. It is not about digging for old memories and dredging up the past. This is about letting whatever is in the body to rise and release with zero judgment. Now, sometimes that manifests as tears in a journey. Sometimes it's shaking. Sometimes it's laughter. Sometimes it's a big sigh or yawn that you didn't know you were holding on to. The second thing about why it works is it's body-led and not mind-led. Trauma isn't stored as a story in your mind. It is stored as a felt sense. Breathwork bypasses the part of you that's always trying to figure out what's wrong, why this happened, and it lets your body lead. I'm not over directing, I'm not over explaining, I'm creating space in these journeys for your body to do exactly what it is designed and what it knows how to do. And often it knows how to finish something that you've been holding on to for years. The third thing is that it integrates self-trust. When a loop finally closes, your nervous system needs a new baseline. Otherwise, it'll go looking for that old pattern. And this is what I often talk about in my She Walks community, especially as it relates to drinking, because our body, our nervous system is not designed for success. It is designed for speed and for comfort. So it will default to the thing that it knows. And oftentimes in like the She Walks community or the sober community, if things get overwhelming, even though we know we don't want to drink, we end up reaching for that because that was the pattern that was familiar and that quote unquote worked. In my sessions, we re-anchor the baseline in self-trust. And so that might sound like my body knows the way. I trust myself now. It's about leaving not just lighter because you have closed loops and you've released chaotic energy, but because you become more certain that you can navigate whatever comes next. And the fourth thing that I'd love for you to know about this particular work is it always includes a gentle come down. We activate a sympathetic charge and then we teach your body to come back from that into the parasympathetic. Loop closure isn't just about discharging energy, but returning to safety. And so I guide you through slow restorative phase so that your body registers that there's a new reality, that the sympathetic charge that you were just in is over, you made it through, and you're safe now. And this is where the integration starts. Now, over about like 40 minutes or so, this breathing pattern of like a conscious connected breath where we don't have any pauses at the top or bottom and we're breathing in and out through our mouth activates the limbic part of the brain. This is the part that holds emotional memory and stored charge. That's why you can access and release things that talking alone can't reach. And the best part, the body does the work. You don't have to force anything and you don't have to like spend hours sitting in the therapy office trying to reconcile what has happened. I am not, for the record, saying that therapy is not necessary. These are two very complementary things. The top-down approach when we're talking about talk therapy or journaling and that cognitive application, and the bottom-up type of work where we're dealing with the body and letting it feel what it needs to. Now, personally, I have had some massive moments as a direct result of deep feeling journeys with breathwork. As I mentioned earlier, there's a shame story that I had carried for 25 years, and in one session, it finally left my body. I was coughing, expelling, purging, literally, and afterward, no activation. I can think about it now, and it's neutral. And I can't tell you, after being so aware of something in the back of your mind for 25 years, how much freedom that creates. Another kind of big moment was literally repatterning my masculine and feminine templates, which might sound like a bit of an abstract concept, but what I mean by it is that I was able to grieve my stepfather's passing in a way that brought me closer to my parents without needing them to change. And also, like, now in most journeys, like, this might sound totally out there, but I absolutely feel his presence in those journeys. He's got a shape and a color, and there is a overall sensation that I feel when I know he has entered the journey itself. And I can't tell you, if you've lost somebody that is close to you, having access to them in that capacity, again, this might sound a little out there, is really priceless. Now, like, those are my personal experiences, but I'm also seeing this with my clients. So I had one client show up to an in-person healing experience with anxiety that was an 8 out of 10. And she was also extremely nervous to even start the session because of vulnerability. But when she left that session, she was a 2 out of 10 on the anxiety scale. She was lighter, she was calmer, and she had tools that she could use at any time. And she actually, like, in her testimonials to me, wrote that it was more impactful than 5 counseling sessions. And another one, she had described her session as being, quote, cracked open in the best possible way. And because of that, she was more free to express, more comfortable in her own truth, more rooted in her own power. And she said she now responds to stress with more control and presence. This shapes how you respond and informs your decisions when you have that level of rooted power. So why is breathwork the big needle mover? Because many healing modalities help us to understand or cope, like I mentioned earlier. This one helps us complete. When a loop closes, it's not just the memory that feels different. Your body's default state changes. Now you have more choice. Now you're less reactive. Now you can meet life from a place of presence instead of protection. And that's why I believe this work is the thing that moves the needle for me, for my clients, and I'm, probably for you too, if you're willing to try it. So if this is something that you're curious about, or even if there's like a party that's like kind of nervous, that's often a sign that you're ready for this kind of work. And you don't have to be ready for a big release. You just have to be willing to let your breath lead. And I guide both private and group journeys. I work out of my home studio. I work virtually. I work in a couple of wellness clinics, therapy offices, yoga studios, because this work is needed. And every person that comes through a facilitation with me, they always walk out feeling different. And if this is something that you are curious about, I would absolutely love to hold that space for you. So I'll put some details in the show notes. And whether you work with me or not, I hope that you take this with you. And that is, your body remembers how to heal. Just like the animals in the wild, your loops can close and you can feel safe again. So if this episode has resonated, if you're curious, send me a message. I would love it if you could share it. I would love it if you would write a review. Send me a note, whatever that looks like. In the meantime, breathe it in and be deliberate.